what business are you in? So about 15 years ago, the management of Mercedes-Benz decided that they were going to invite Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker is the guru of management consultancy. They decided to invite him to come and talk to the board and to the management team. And he sent them in advance a questionnaire, a bit like Shadi does. And the first question on the questionnaire was, what business are you in? So out of the 14 responses, he got 11 times the same response. We are in the business of building cars. Who agrees? No one agrees? Mercedes is not in the business of building cars? Obviously, if it was that simple, I wouldn't be talking about it. So he got there and he told them, what business are you in? And they said, we're in the business of building cars. And he said, but Fiat is in the business of building cars. Are you competitors to Fiat? They said, no, of course not. He said, well, if you're in the same business, you're competitors. So they said, well, not building cars then. So what? So one guy, with a smile on his face, lifted his hand and said, we're in the business of building luxury cars. So you're in the same business as BMW then? What's differentiated? They build luxury cars. No. BMW's Germans on the other side of the country. We're not competing with them. So what business are you in then? Any ideas? What business? Mercedes-Benz? Sorry? Lifestyle. That's close enough. That was the result after the second day of deliberation. On the third day, the result was, it was a 5-day process to determine what business they were in. So at the end of the second day, it was lifestyle. Then they said, well, we don't compete with Nike, right? And in the end, it turns out that what Mercedes-Benz sells are status symbols. Make sense? Yeah? How many people here own a Mercedes-Benz? Yeah? How many people decided that they were going to buy a Mercedes-Benz because it was a Mercedes-Benz? Exactly. And you wouldn't, I came on and I said, Mercedes builds cars, right? In your own businesses, in my business, this is a question that we ask ourselves at the beginning of every quarter. What business are we in? And it is amazing how the answer evolves over time. When you are as big as Mercedes-Benz, it doesn't, right? You have a core business. In the SME markets, it changes all the time because the business is so dynamic, right? How many of you have actually changed the business you are in at least twice in the last 3 years? Yeah? Some hands are going up. Shadi, definitely, yes. So that was question 1. Who are your customers? So a couple of weeks ago, I got home after a very long day. It was about 7:30. I opened the door and my wife says, Patrick, we have 17 people coming for a barbecue in half an hour. Oh, and by the way, you don't know any of them. Oh, and by the way, it's 50 degrees outside and you're cooking. So I'm sitting outside and I'm barbecuing. Some guy comes and I've never spoken to him before. I don't know who he is. And he tells me that he has this company that is a couple of years old and he's in the white good business. So he does kettles, he does washing machines, iron, etc., etc. So I get interested. I asked, I said, who do you sell to? Oh, everyone. I said, okay, good. Do you use the product yourself? Oh, no, I don't. I said, but you own the company. He says, yeah, I use Miele because that's big, expensive stuff. So I said, well, why don't you use your own product? He said, well, it's not for me. Okay, so 30 minutes ago you were selling to everyone. Today, you just decided that you yourself are not the target customer. Then he says, yes, but we do affordable products. And for the next hour, he proceeded to avoid the word cheap and low cost. And he talked about affordable quality, he talked about all sorts of words that mean cheap. And I told him, so why are you ashamed of doing cheap stuff? if you know who your customers are, cheap stuff are okay. There are people that buy stuff because they are cheap. We all sometimes buy stuff because they are cheap, right? We compare prices. Sometimes we buy stuff because they are cheap. It's amazing how many companies out there build stuff that is cheap and want to use the word affordable or quality. People buy stuff because they are cheap. Once you understand who your customers are, you are able to decide how to position your product. I build and sell cheap products, personally. I mean, we sell phones, we sell tablets, they work fine, and they're not expensive. They're cheap. Hundreds of thousands of people buy them. I'm happy with that. I know who my customers are. And I think it's very important as an SMB and SME to actually understand who your customers are and not to be afraid to use simple words to address them on your core value. I mean, for us, our core benefit is that we're not expensive. Cheap. Make sense? Last slide.